Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and today we'll be going over a 2020 Lexus LX 570. So this is like the top of the line bad boy sibling vehicle to the Toyota Land Cruiser. So as always, we're going to do a quick walk around on the LX 570, then we're going to take it out to see how it drives. A huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Lexus here in Murray, Utah for providing us with the LX 570. Check out their inventory in the link below. Let's get into the video. Under the hood here we have a naturally aspirated 5.7 liter V8 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Power outputs are 383 horsepower, 403 foot-pounds of torque, with fuel economy being 13 around town and 18 on the highway. Now let's go over things on the front end of the LX 570, and yes, this is going to be exactly the same as what it was in 2019. They really haven't made any changes. Still get the little Lexus check mark with full LED lights. Still get the gigantic front end grille with the Lexus logo doubling as a sensor, and then there are some parking sensors up front. And if you're wondering why the vehicle is so tall, I actually have it in the higher suspension setting, and then yep, you got your fog lights right there. But here's kind of like a full-on front view of the LX 570. Coming around to the side here, we've got 275mm tires and 21-inch rims in the front and the rear as well. And yeah, the rims are massive, but so is this vehicle, so it kind of matches with it. I like the design of it with the little black inserts. Definitely makes for a cooler look. And again, like I said, I raised the suspension so you guys can see what the suspension looks like when it's raised up. But here is your look at the side of the LX 570. Here's our key fob for the LX 570. You got a couple functions. You got your unlock, your lock, and then the tailgate release, and you'll see why I said that in just a moment. But anyways, if you hold this down for just a few, it'll remote start just like any other Lexus. Give it a minute, and boom! You can hear some nice noise from that 5.7 liter V8. Interesting noise right there. But anyways, if you press it again, that will shut it right off. Now the next function is to open up the back. So you hold this, and the first part is going to be power operated. It is split, which I think is really cool. I know that it lends to a little bit more work with opening it up, but definitely a little more practical. So then you just pull this little lever right here, and then that'll allow you to pull this little part down. Now you can pull these little things up. I'm not going to because it's kind of like a pain to get it back into place. But you can see the space back here is just absolutely massive. I have the seats stored at the side so you can see what you could use as like cargo space, but you can throw those seats down if you do need to put some passengers back here in a pinch. But yeah, I mean, storage space back here is massive, and you can see you've got all the controls for the seats. It's all powered down and up, which I think is definitely just a really cool little feature that you can just press this, and then the seat will be like, well, bam, which obviously I'm not going to throw it all the way down because there's floor mats. But anyways, you guys get the point. I think that's cool. But when you are done with everything in the rear here, you do have to pick up this little part like that, and then that'll lock into place, and then that allows you to shut the tailgate, and, or I should say the hatch, but you get what I mean. Now let's finish things up in the rear of the LX 570 here. So it's got the signature Lexus taillights that again are kind of like the Lexus little check mark. It says LX 570 back there. There are parking sensors all along the bottom with a little receiver hitch under that bezel. And then you can see the mud flaps from here, which is pretty neat. But yeah, it's just absolutely massive here in the back end. I mean, just compare this size-wise to like a Lexus RX. Like the RX looks just tiny. We have keyless entry back here, so one touch to lock it, and then it'll power fold in the mirror. And when you put your hand on the back of the door handle, it'll actually power fold the mirror back out. Now here is the door panel for the rear. They've got this nice leather on the side, and you got a little sunshade right here with the wood trim that goes across. And the thing about the suspension being in the higher setting is it's kind of, you gotta kind of step up into it like you would with the truck. I mean, it's high up off the ground. But when we are in here, there's some vents down here, and then there's a bunch of little like charging stations in that little area. And then this little wood paneling is just there for design, I guess. I thought you could press it because it's a little tab, but again, it's just there to look nice. You do get these little storage pockets on the back, and then it does have these little TVs. So that one doesn't have the cover on it, so you can see what the TV actually looks like. In terms of legroom, it's actually a decent amount back here. Now headroom, I'm about 5'11", and I've got a good amount until I touch the top here. Finally, this does double as like a little armrest that you can pull out. And this is where all of your climate controls are going to be. You do get heated and ventilated seats even in the second row. and then there's some extra storage underneath there. So yeah, I mean, super solid in the back seats here. And the seats themselves are, I mean, you can see just how plush the leather is. They're very, very comfortable. We have keyless entry here at the front. Again, does the same thing with the mirrors. And by the way, those mirrors do have blind spot monitoring on them. Now, here is the door panel in the front. Looks identical to the one in the rear, except this little arm thing that comes down, but they even wrapped that in leather, which is a nice little touch. All of your window controls are in this area. It does have memory seats, and then your mirror controls, you can power fold in the mirrors with a button. Now, here is the seat in the front itself. And again, full leather on these seats, really nice stitching, and just the feel of them is very, very premium, very nice. There's the power adjustments on the side of the seat itself, and then you can just press that to move it forward. Now, there's the pedal layout just down below, and then you got like all of your light controls in this area, and then the steering wheel is going to be automatically adjustable. And here's kind of one more look before we pop inside. Now to start this LX 570, foot on the brake, push to push start. Gauges will pop on, screen will do its little thing, that will do its little thing, and yeah, everything will come to life. Here's the steering wheel on the LX 570. Zooming in, we've got all of our controls for the center stack. You got like the pages button, the back button, all that. You've got your lane departure assistance, and then that is your collision assistance. Cruise control is just hiding right behind there. Voice commands, all that kind of stuff, and phone controls are on the other side. Now you've got this really nice stitching on the inside part of the steering wheel, and then the wood trim that goes all around. Definitely feels premium. You actually get paddles to shift the gears yourself if you want. And then you have your regular light stock, and then you've got the stock for the windshield wipers on the other side. We have the gauge cluster here in the center, RPMs on the left side, and the right side you got speed. And the only reason that's popped on is because Utah is very bipolar with the weather, and the temperature swings kind of mess with tire pressures all the time, so it's nothing to worry about here. But anyways, there's a couple little things that you can kind of scroll through on the screens. Nothing too crazy, just pretty much like any other Lexus. Here is the center screen. I'm gonna pop on the little backup camera function on it. So it's got trajectory lines that'll turn, and you can see there's that even that bird's eye view, which definitely helps out. And then when I pop it into drive, it'll even give me a view out the front, which definitely helps out, especially if you're on the off-road. Now you control this via kind of like this weird little keypad system. So yeah, it's this thing. And it's not as intuitive as Lexus's little like trackpad. This is definitely different. Takes a little bit longer to get used to. It's kind of touchy, but yeah, I mean, with this car, with all of its off-road capability, it's something that I'm sure that you'd be willing to get used to. But if Lexus could at least just add their keypad to it, that would be a nice little touch for the LX 570. Lexus's little clock right here, and then you got all of the controls for the radio, climate controls. It is a dual zone climate up front here. And then we've got little cup holders, which you can cover with that little wood trim. There's your little parking brake. And then this is the shifter for that 8-speed automatic transmission. Like I said, you can shift the gears here or with the little paddles. And here's that little trackpad thing that I just showed you like 2 seconds ago. And then you can press this to like enter into things, which just is kind of weird. And anyways, we actually have our heated and cooled seats for the front, heated steering wheel, and you can have it just like on auto, so it'll set it with, well, you have the temperature set at, and passenger has the same little thing. We're gonna get into this whole mess of controls momentarily. But opening this little part up, this is cool because this is like a center console, but then it also doubles as a refrigerator. Definitely can feel that it's cooler than any other part of the car. Some of my favorite parts about the Land Cruiser and the LX 570s, they both have the little refrigerator center consoles. And then finally, we do have the glove box, which you can see, normal sized glove box, but it's nice that it's completely covered in leather. Like there's leather here and there's leather on the front of the glove box, so it all like feels and looks nice. This little area is kind of like all the off-road tech. So you got like your turning assistance, and then this is your crawl control, and then you can set the dial with that little system. You've got the stability control, you've got the lockers, and then this is actually your drive modes, which will pop up in the center screen right here. So you've got the comfort, eco, that's what that looks like. If you press it in, that'll put it back into normal, or you do have a custom mode, and then you can go to sport, and then the sport plus mode. So pretty simple there. The dials themselves actually feel pretty nice, they look nice. Then you've got your little four-wheel drive shifter, so if you want to be in four-wheel drive or four-wheel low. And then this is for the suspension to raise and lower, and you obviously can turn that function off if you want, or you can have it on, whatever you prefer on that. Well, up top's pretty simple. We've got a sunglass holder, which definitely actually feels nice and it is completely lined with felt, which is interesting. Headliner is very soft to the touch, just a regular sunroof up here, and yeah, other than having a soft headliner, it's pretty normal up top. Now that we're done going over this LX 570, let's quickly talk about pricing. So this particular LX 570, like pretty much any other LX 570, because you can't really add that many options to it, stickers for just over $100,000, which is about $20,000 more than the Toyota Land Cruiser. Anyways, that all being said, let's take this LX 570 out and see how it drives. About visibility before we set off here in the LX 570. In terms of visibility over the hood, it is a bigger hood, but still pretty easy to see out the front, and hope you guys can now see the little heads-up display. There's visibility through the mirror, and again, like I said, it's got blind spot monitoring, and then there's your other mirror. Here's all throughout the rear. It's a bunch of gigantic, big square windows, so it's really easy to see all throughout. And just so you guys know, in the driving portion, I've put it to N, which is kind of like the middle setting. I'm pretty sure it stands for neutral, at least I would assume so, because it's not low, it's not high, it's neutral. Camera system's still cool that pops up on the front. And so far, what I've noticed with this car is the steering is actually really heavy. Most of these larger sized SUVs, I'm used to them having just really light steering, whereas this one just has pretty heavy steering, which is definitely interesting, makes it feel a little bit more old school. Initially setting off here in the LX 570, let's talk about the road noise first and foremost. Yeah, I mean, I hear quite a bit from the V8 and it sounds really nice. Other than that though, it's pretty quiet with the tire noise. I don't hear any wind noise really. The ride quality is exceptionally smooth. I mean, this rides just like any other luxury car would. You wouldn't expect that this is a crazy capable off-road SUV. So this is kind of cool. We're about to take a turn here, but this camera, always at lower speeds, just automatically pops on, which again, that would help a ton on the off-road. Definitely something that I wish my Raptor did. Like, it'll pop on in certain settings, but this just always turns on, which is kind of neat, just to show you what's happening in the front. And steering there, again, the steering is heavier. It's actually relatively direct. There is a little bit of play, but I feel like this is pretty direct for how big the LX 570 is. And I almost said Land Cruiser, but I mean, you guys can understand why. We are finally going to be getting our acceleration here in the LX 570, and one of those train tracks very smoothly. But anyways, here she goes. Takes a second, but that naturally aspirated V8 does really well with acceleration. And yeah, it's not crazy quick or anything like that, but it's more than enough power for what this is and for what you'd use it for, especially on the off-road. It's more than adequate on the power side of things. Now, in terms of smoothness, I mean, other than the fact that it took a second to get into it, it's pretty smooth through the gear shifts, and the acceleration itself is also really smooth. Let's get into summing things up for the LX 570. Now, really, this is basically just the Lexus version of the Land Cruiser. You just get all the Lexus logos. But I mean, from the interior standpoint and all that, I mean, they're super close. And so, I mean, if you're really into Lexuses, obviously go for this LX 570. But if I had to pick between the two, I'd kind of lean towards the Land Cruiser. But again, I think this looks a little bit nicer than the Land Cruiser. And so, again, it would be a tough choice, but there's really nothing else for me to compare this against, because there's not really many gigantic off-road SUVs like this on the market. The Land Cruiser and the LX 570 pretty much have dominance on just what this is. So yeah, I mean, if you're in the market for a gigantic, awesome, like luxury off-road SUV that you could pretty much live in, I mean, it's got a refrigerator, for goodness sakes, check out this LX 570. Here we have it, everyone, the 2020 Lexus LX 570, and I'm super excited for them to fully redesign it. They're supposed to do it in like the next year, the next couple years, and Yeah, I bet it'll be awesome. But anyways, again, a huge shout out and thank you to Larry H. Miller Lexus here in Murray for providing us with the LX 570. Check out their inventory in the link below if you're in the market for a new Lexus. If you're stopping for the first time, please subscribe, and then I will see all of you in that next video.